Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Come on along. Welcome aboard. Jim Coyle with you here. Dylan Sinn joining us on Indiana Sports Beat, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda, the #1 Honda dealer in Bloomington, here at the ski slopes at Eagle Point Studios. Cold day. I can't imagine what it's like where you are, Dylan Sinn, in Fort Wayne. What is that like?
Oh, it is absolutely freezing. We got the snow yesterday, and then last night the temperature dropped. Everything is an ice sheet. So we are we're struggling a little bit here, but we're gonna make it through. We're tough up here in Northeast Indiana.
Yeah. There's a reason you live there, I guess. Northern is not for me. This is bad enough. And I'm Bloomington -3.
Wow.
So nice way to start the day. That'll wake you up. Plenty of snow out there. Got shoveling, and but it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a rough couple of weeks weather-wise. We're trying to dig ourselves.
How about Texas?
Snowstorm here.
Texas is not going to be above freezing. I don't think they're going to be above freezing until Friday or something like that. Stupid.
It's 20 degrees in Dallas today, I think, something like that. They've never had temperatures that cold in living memory.
Well, it's the stretch too. It's ongoing. There's a lot of people. There are a lot of people that are hurting down there. So we feel for you guys that they're not ready for this. They're not. If it gets cold, it may get cold for a day or two and it's gone. This has been ongoing for like a week for them. I saw a post. I think one of our listeners, Jen. I didn't know you lived in Texas, but man, I'm so sorry for. I saw pipes. The heat had gone out for so many people. We saw that they're on this grid. They're on their own grid. She's one of those, I guess. The heat went out, and then the pipes burst. See, that's problems that we know about. I know all about that stuff from when I was a kid, and how to prepare for that. You got to leave the faucets running down there in Texas, guys. You got to leave the faucets running. So you got to let it trick, not full blast. A little trick, not a little trickle, but a good, a little bitty baby stream constantly on your bathroom, your kitchen sink. You got to leave that going down there. For our listeners in Texas, man, I feel for you guys, but seriously, that's the stuff that you got to do, and they're not ready. They're not used to. They don't know how to battle for it if they didn't move from here. So man, that's hitting them pretty hard.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's tough for them right now, and you got to hope that they get the power grid on back as soon as possible. I saw photos on Twitter of people with their bathtubs completely frozen over of water and icicles dripping from chandeliers and things like that. It's tough down there. I got to hope they get the power back on soon.
Basketball last night in the Big Ten. Of course, tonight, I'm not going to ignore Indiana taking on Minnesota. Of course, we're going to talk about that full force today. A game that this sets up to be almost an automatic win for Indiana. There is not a heckling Dr. Heckle and
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Jekyll and Hyde. Yeah, I couldn't get it out there. The Jekyll and Hyde team like Minnesota. It is mind-boggling how they go from being as good as they are at home in this season when it doesn't matter. And when you could, if you were blindfolded, you would have no freaking clue where you were. They are horrible on the road. And I mean, I don't know that they've won a Big Ten game on the road, have they?
They have not won a game on the road. They are 0-7 in true road games this year. They are 13-1 at home. It is absolutely ridiculous. And they've beaten some extremely good. Archie Miller said it yesterday. They have some wins that are as good as anyone in the country. They are the only team to beat Michigan this season. I believe they've beaten Wisconsin. They have some really good wins. They beat Purdue just last week at home. But they have lost to some really bad teams on the road. I mean, they lost to Maryland just a couple days ago. Maryland's not bad, but they lost to Maryland on the road. They have not been a good team away from home, and it's just mind-boggling, as you said, because that's a great way to put it. Is if you had a blindfold on, you wouldn't know the difference, but apparently they do, and they have really struggled here on the road. So Indiana has a chance to get a big win tonight.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that later on, of course, as we preview that game. But that's just set up. Indiana is they've got to get a couple more wins, and they're not beating Michigan, especially after what I saw the other day. They're not beating Purdue after what I saw last night again. So those are not wins. Then you've got a 50-50 game in Rutgers. I think is I'm going to call that a 50-50 game. The Michigan State game is a game that they should win, but I've been watching them, man. They're battling with people, and they're close. They just can't get over the hump. They battle. But man, they're going to knock somebody off, I think, and they just haven't here of late. But man, they've been getting closer, so that's a game you got to be on your toes because Michigan State is looking to beat somebody, and Tom Izzo is looking to get something out of this season for his team because they're not going to the tournament either.
Right, we saw last night again when Michigan State played Purdue is that they are still playing hard for Tom Izzo. They are coming out with a lot of energy. They are fighting. And they have some talented players. They can score the ball. They can defend. They can play in the post. Joey Hauser is a great big that can step out and shoot the three. Rocket Watts is a creative scorer. Joshua Langford can score as well. So this is a team with talent. There's a reason they were number 4 in the country at one point this year. So that is not a gimme victory for IU, but it is a win they have to have because you can't lose these games to teams that are near the bottom of the Big Ten. And shockingly, Michigan State is one of those teams this year. So you need to get wins. If you're not going to be able to beat Ohio State or Michigan or Illinois, which Indiana seems like they're not going to be able to win those games, then you need to beat the teams that are at your level and lower. And you need to beat Minnesota. You need to beat Michigan State. And you need to find some ways to win some other games as well. They've done that with Iowa, but then they need to go out and get some other ones too to kind of show the committee, hey, we can beat someone that's good besides Iowa.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. Don't forget after the game with Todd Leary, of course. Still don't even know how we're going to do that thing tonight. That's going to be a post 11 o'clock deal, so we'll get that figured out. But plenty to get to today. Kyle Neddenriep's going to join us as well, so we've got plenty to talk about with him as the high schools are rolling around. Let's see. So last night in the games talked about that Purdue game. That's a game that was closer than the final score. That's exactly that. That's a game that I watched somebody last night. It was Michigan State, or they played Purdue last night, right?
Yeah.
Because there was another Big Ten game I was watching. It was at Illinois afterwards, Northwestern. But Michigan State battle, they were close right up till the end and just couldn't get there, and it got away from them. But, man, Purdue, they're bigs. They've just gotten – they don't do anything. They don't try to force. That's what I was watching. I was like, man, they don't try to do anything crazy. They just do their job. And they let the guys around them, Jaden Ivey and those other guys, do what they do. Purdue, if you're a Hoosier fan, let me tell you right now, you should be sick to your stomach about what's about to happen. Not what's happened in the last however many games it is now, about what's about to happen. The future does not look good for you if you're a Hoosier fan towards looking at West Lafayette. They have got that team. It's scary for what the future holds for them, Dylan Sinn. If you're an Indiana fan.
If you're a Boilermaker fan, you are ecstatic right now. But yeah, you're right. Their team is so well constructed. They have bigs that can dominate inside. They have guards that can score off the dribble and create a little bit, and they defend extremely well. Jaden Ivey is going to be a superstar in this league. Travion Williams already is. And then they have the pieces around them that theoretically they can shoot the lights out as well. And that's kind of the scary thing for the rest of the Big Ten is they haven't been shooting well, and they've still been finding ways to win some of these games. They went 3 for 12 from 3-point range last night and still found a way to win. So, yeah, I don't know what you could say about Purdue other than, like, they're young and they're coming.
Yeah, and they're going to keep – and you got Trey Kaufman, like you said, and Logan Duncombe. I mean, not Logan Duncombe.
Caleb First.
Big guys. And those 4 guys that freshmen, Ivy, I know he's from Mishawaka. Where are their other 3 freshmen from?
So Brandon Newman is from Valparaiso. Mason Gillis.
Gillis, yeah. Yeah, I remember him. He's from Newcastle.
Yes, Newcastle. Zach Eady's from Florida. Oh, he went to IMG Academy, I believe. And then,
but 3 of them are from Indiana.
Yes. And yeah, they're Indiana kids for the most part. They've done a good job recruiting Indiana in the last few years here for sure.
Yeah, Mike hit us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Says, yes, Minnesota cannot win on the road, and IU can't win at home. Will this be the get-right game for Minnesota? That's a great question. Didn't really think about that part. I was thinking about how mightily Minnesota has struggled on the road. I wasn't thinking about it. I don't think that Indiana has struggled at home. I wouldn't say that. I think they've just gotten beat. I don't think it has nothing to do with struggles. They're just getting beat. They're just not that good. They're just getting beat. They don't execute. That's their problem. They don't execute. I can't say that's their problem. That's just one of many. But if you don't execute at a high level now, this time of the season, it's not happening. So I wouldn't say they struggled. They fail to execute. I don't know if I don't think that's the same thing, but I know you know what I'm talking about. It's just because I think you could take their struggle. Their struggle you can move it anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are. They're not struggling at home. They're just struggling.
Yes. Yeah, I was about to say the exact same thing. They're the same team home and away this season. They don't play better or worse at home, which obviously it's tough without the fans, but you'd like to have some kind of home court advantage where you play a little bit better. You're able to win some of these games down the stretch. Now, where they were able to win games against Maryland and Penn State at home, they won that game against Iowa, but they've also lost close games. They lost to Illinois close. They lost to Rutgers close. They lost to Northwestern earlier in the season, which is looking like a terrible loss that could drag down their tournament resume. So there have been some games where they've been right there at the end, even at home, and just haven't found a way to win. And games that you would really like to have when you look back at the end of the season.
Yeah, we're getting close to a break. When we in our next break, we'll talk about yesterday's presser, in which questions were asked finally that a lot of people have been wanting to hear answers to. I don't know that the answers were what we were expecting to hear, but Archie was asked about starting lineups, about halftime changes, a myriad of other things. And Archie basically says, I think my team's on the floor. I don't know. Were you on there yesterday? I can't remember.
I was, yeah.
I mean, would you characterize that as my team's on the floor kind of a answer?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, he said, I think the quote was, no grand changes to the starting line. He said that the slow starts, basically, Trace Jackson-Davis is one of the biggest culprits of those slow starts. And so he's like, we're not taking Trace out of the lineup, so what are we talking about here, was kind of how he framed it.
And I guess we see it differently, but we'll talk about that. We're going to hit a break. We're going to talk about that. You can hit us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline if you wish, but we're coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, and we'll be back with more right after this.
Hey, we all want more, and no one gives you more for less.
Yeah, his answers were extremely confusing. His answer to me, his answer to my question was
Which one was
extraordinarily. I asked him about the halftime changes and adjustments. Does what's actually going on the floor, whether it's the unit that's playing or an individual that's having a hot hand, is it not ever a consideration to just take that and move it forward into the half to try to capture that momentum and continue that going forward? And I don't even know what he really said, to be honest with you. I basically said we look at it, but we don't do it.
Yeah, it just says, I don't know. The quote is, in all reality, you have to go with the guys that have, number one, earned the right to be there, and number two, you do not want to lose confidence in guys by making changes.
And don't want them to lose confidence. And I'm like, tough shit. That's on them. What about the guys that's working their ass off that you're not playing? What about him losing confidence? That should be playing. But yeah, it's a great debate.
I'm not sure that one guy or a lineup change is really going to mean a lick of difference when it comes to how you're playing in the game.
No, well, I was only talking about the start to this, not the starting, but I meant there's no way that to start a half that doing something different cannot help. There's no way that riding a hot hand cannot help. There's no way that when someone is hot, don't take them out. Why did he, like when he took Jerome Hunter out? Why? I don't think they actually pay attention to what's going on in the moment of the game. I don't think they're in the flow. I think it is a script, and that is it. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, to their credit, they're finally starting to play the freshmen a little bit. Christian Lander, Jordan Geronimo are finally getting minutes that I thought they should have been getting most of the season. Geronimo specifically, I have no idea why he wasn't getting playing time earlier in the year. Like the reasoning is that he just wasn't ready defensively. But he's so long and athletic, he can make up if he gets beat. Christian Lander, I understand because he just wasn't quite there physically, and he lost a little bit of confidence. So I understand him, but Geronimo, I thought he should have been out there. Excuse me.
Yeah, see, and that's another thing. I know that he's not going to – Christian's not ready for 25, 30 minutes yet, I don't think. No. I know that defensively he can be not I'm going to say liability. Defensively, he's learning still, growing still. But I think that even if you wanted to start him in the second half for 3 minutes, you played him for 3 minutes so many times. Why not running for 3 minutes? Let him get that first little burst of energy.
Experience.
Who knows? Anything is worth a change for this team that has just done.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Welcome back. Here we are, Golf Club Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer, 0% sales event going on right now. They have never, ever had a 0% event at Honda. You can get 0% APR financing and more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com. Man, you need an all-wheel vehicle out there today. One that's got some busted-up heating system, baby. Woo, it is chilly outside, but we're going forward. Indiana takes on Minnesota tonight in a nice 9 p.m. tip. Thank you very much, Big Ten. It'll probably -4 when that thing tips off tonight. Archie Miller yesterday, we got to meet with him as before they took off, or they didn't take off, they're here before as ahead of meeting Minnesota. Trevor, what's clip is this one that you have, Trevor?
It's Kevin Brockway, friend of the show.
Okay, this is Kevin Brockway, who joins us from CNHI Papers, asked about changing the starting lineup, period. Just, to start a game. Because there are a lot of people who asked about that, which, and I understand, but I can see where Archie's a little more rigid, where other coaches aren't. Other coaches are just more willing to maybe shake things up. But anyway, let's just get right to this Kevin's question on Archie about the starting lineup.
Coach, in light of the slow starts, how do you feel about the starting five at this point? I mean, could that possibly be a factor, or would you consider any changes going forward with the start?
Don't consider any changes going forward, and it won't be due to slow starts. If we change our lineup, it'll have something to do with we feel that guy really earned the right to maybe get off to an earlier start in the game or deserve more playing time. But, the first five that goes out there, to me, he's got to be a more confident group, like I said. And a lot of it, to be honest with you, is Trace. If you want me to, you want me to pull Trace out of the starting lineup for missing a couple free throws or an easy one to start the game, to me, we got to get him more of a confidence level to start the game. And I think that will help us more than anything. But, there won't be any lineup changes unless it's due to, circumstances not surrounding how we start a game. But, to me, our group is working hard for being in February and the grind that we're in. We have a great attitude. We work every day very hard. And I think yesterday was no difference. I think I see more of a bounce with certain guys as we finish the home stretch here, that they're pushing in the right direction. And what you hope is that attitude, that work ethic sort of contributes a little bit more to the start of the game in terms of getting off to a better start. But no grand changes. We are who we are. Most guys on our team know right now they can all contribute in different ways, and they're getting their opportunities. They just got to be better.
There's Archie answering that question. I understand a little bit towards the starting lineup, especially where we are right now at this point of the season. But to say absolutely not consider, I'm like, what are you doing? What do you mean not consider? How the hell do you know what's going to happen next week? How do you know what's going to happen? How do you know what you're going to? So that tells me it doesn't matter who you're playing. It does not matter what you're going to do. You're not worried about adjusting anything, which if you're doing the things right, you shouldn't have to. they should have to adjust to you. But Indiana doesn't execute that well enough for that reason. So to say to not consider, that's the only thing of that bothers me on that one.
Yeah. And to be clear, he isn't saying he said he's not going to consider it because of the slow starts. He wants his best 5 players, who he believes are his best 5 players out there at the start of the game, regardless of how well they play right at the start. He wants, if he's going to make a lineup change, he wants it to be someone who has demonstrated that they are one of the 5 best players now, where they weren't before. And so I think what he said there about Trace is really interesting as well, because Trace needs to start better. That's obvious at this point. He said it after the Ohio State game. He had 0 points on 2 shot attempts in the first 10 minutes of that game, and then he had 23 the rest of the game. Like, he can't get off to these slow starts, because by the time he gets going, Indiana's behind by 15. So they need Trace to be better from the jump, and I don't know what that is, or how they can get him fired up at the start of games, but that's something that needs to come quicker for them.
Yeah, it's I think people are kind of getting tired of Archie talk, though, because it's a lot of the same old stuff with the same old, it's that Einstein, he came up with that saying a long time ago, and it hasn't changed in however many years it's been. It's still the same. But it's people are tired of it's I think they feel like when you look at the product on the floor and the eye test is supposed to, we're not supposed to use that phrase anymore, but when you see what you see, especially when you spend enough time watching sports, I've spent enough time watching sports and participate, whatever. I can tell when things are not going well, when it's constant and it's the same things. And that's what people are tired of. And I think they're tired of not hearing him address it, not hearing him acknowledge there's issues. There are major issues. There are not minor issues. There's major issues. There are major problems. He just always skirts by it. And I think that we're also in a different era. Are we in an era where coaches are just too afraid to hurt players' feelings? Well, this player's not confident. I don't want to change the lineup because it may hurt his feelings. Screw him. Toughen up. What the hell? What are we doing here? You want softies on the court? Are we handing everybody a trophy again? Maybe that's why you're not tough enough. The guys that aren't tough enough are getting passes. Toughen them up. That's your job. But, I'm not saying that's the case, but this makes me, those questions are what come to mind. Jennifer says, when I hear Archie talk, I hear Charlie Brown. Scott Horn says, I get tired of listening to Archie. It's a lot of the same comments, man. Jesse, how about just say when we just need to find a way to win. Scott, I agree. I mean, it goes on and on and on. This is how people are feeling. But this one, the next question I was able to ask him. This question here is the one that I really left me confusing, Dylan. And Trevor, go ahead. And I asked about changing at halftime or making adjustments at halftime. And I'm not necessarily talking about lineup changes all the time. I was talking about coming out of the half with a different lineup than you started the game with, if it involved what's going on in the game. Specifically, if a particular unit is on a roll at the end of the half, or an individual is just on a roll at the end of a half, why not come out with that? Why not try to continue that momentum forward and not go back to jump and reset everything that you had to work so hard to get to that point? I don't understand that, but so I asked that question, Trevor, and let's hear what the answer is.
Outlies who's doing what and how their extended minutes will play. I mean, there's always conversations about coming out of halftime, changing it up when one guy has a really good start to the game or a good first half. But in all reality, you have to go with the faith of the guys that number one have earned the right to be out there, and number two, you don't want to lose confidence in guys by making changes. Sometimes making changes can hurt you just as much as help you, with the confidence level of other guys. And I think we want to keep all of our guys right now in the right mental framework that, sometimes it goes in peaks and valleys in terms of how you're playing throughout the course of the year. But the finish is the most important part, and having everybody engaged right now, doing what we're asking them to do and trying to simplify some roles. But, throughout the course of a game, I think playing time is definitely distributed based on how you're doing out there, which we've seen different lineups in the game in the last 3 or 4 games with 4 freshmen on the floor at one time because they're playing well. And I think, when things aren't going well for you during a game like Ohio State, I'm not sure that one guy or a lineup change is really going to mean a lick of difference when it comes to how you were playing in that game. But if you look at our game against Northwestern, Jerome finished very strong. He did. He played really well and was able to finish the game in there. I think Christian's playing more minutes because he's earned the right to play more minutes, and he's doing a nice job of facilitating at times for us. And I think Wednesday night will be the same. Whoever's playing well and has an opportunity to help us gets more opportunity. But you earn that, pretty much every day with the belief that you give everybody around you.
There's Archie Miller's answer to my question in regards to halftime changes, which you don't want to lose confidence in guys by making changes. I completely don't understand that. What the hell does that have to do with this guy when this guy's playing better by moving him up? So why would you lose confidence in this kid because this guy's playing well? We look at it, but apparently they don't do it. Well, they obviously don't do it. So that's not going to happen. So that just tells you this is what it is. This is what you're going to get. Whether you like it or not, this is what we're going to do. It hasn't worked very well, but we're going to do it anyway. It doesn't work very well in this game. It doesn't matter. They're different personnel, but it doesn't matter. I don't understand that, but I guess I'm a little more hot-headed than most. So, Dylan, that's why I have calmer people like you on.
Well, I do think that there's something to wanting to put the best 5 out there at the start of the second half, even if someone had a hot hand at the end of the first half. You never know whether.
Who says he's doing that to begin with?
Well, let me ask you this, Jim. What games did you think that they took the guy with the hot hand out after the end of the first half?
Well, I'm not saying that there was, because I don't know I'd have to go back and look to see if Hunter was in at the half at the end of that game. I'd have to go back and look. But it's just an ongoing thing because it is every time. You know how it's going to happen, and anytime that Indiana has been on a run, it doesn't matter. You know what's happening at the start of the half. You're going back to Jump Street. And I just have not understood that. And when you look at the historic, the way that Indiana has been getting off, I mean, it's terrible. Sometimes you just have to change something just for the sake of change. It's not about confidence. It's not about anything. It's about, hey, let's just stem the tide, stem the bleeding, change it. It's shock to the system. We're not talking, could you change a freaking a lineup that's just going to wreck somebody's season? Are you kidding me? If that is truly the answer, then what the hell are you doing as a coach that they're that weak-minded that one change is going to wreck their season? And why aren't they doing it to begin with? I could go on all day with that line.
Yeah, I mean, against Ohio State, they went back to the starting lineup after having a really good end of the first half, and they actually had a good first few minutes of the second half. It was after that that it fell apart again. But yeah, I see what you're saying, where you want to stick with the hot hand at some point. And see what these guys can do. I do think that to their credit, they are finally getting the freshmen some playing time. Christian Lander, as Archie said, is finally getting some minutes, where at the beginning of the season he kind of wasn't. Jordan Geronimo also getting some minutes. Jerome Hunter, I think, needs to get more minutes. I understand that he is a flawed player still at this point, but he is one of their most athletic players. He's one of the guys that's most aggressive in going to the rim and trying to create something. So I think he needs to get more minutes as well. But yes, it's something needs to kind of shake things up just a little bit, because obviously, as you said, what's going on now is just, it's not working as well as you'd like.
No, and again, you talk about Rob's confidence, Rob Fennessy. Why? Well, I guess he's not confident because he looks like the same player he was as a freshman that he does 3 years later. And, well, who's your coach? Why have we not developed? What's going on there? What's happening? Why are you not confident? There's a litany of questions that we don't get to ask, but there's a whole lot of stuff right there. Are the 5 best players on the floor? I mean, I don't know, because we're not in practice. And I know a lot of that stuff's determined in practice, but what you do in practice is not the same as what you do on the game. A lot of it's big difference there, man. And so I don't know. There a lot of players are great in practice, but when the lights go on, it's a different thing. It's a different. You're not playing against practice players, so it's different. It's a difficult challenge. I'm not acting like that it's not, but I don't like the unwillingness or the inability to change or to even consider it. That's when things have just not been great, and that is not a good look for the future if you're an Indiana fan.
Yeah, Rob Fantasy, I'm glad you mentioned him because he's an interesting one where he theoretically is one of their 5 best players, but he has not been in a significant amount of games this year. There are just games where he disappears. There was, and you could tell at least a little bit of it, I think, his confidence. I obviously, we're not in his head. We don't know. We don't want to speculate, but a little bit of it has to be confidence just because, we saw against Ohio State, there was a shot early in the game where he came off a screen, got the ball on the wing. He was wide open for 3. Indiana had actually rotated the ball very well. They went inside out. He was wide open for 3 from the wing and shot it about 3 feet long. The ball did not touch anything. And that has to be a confidence thing, right? Because he is a good shooter. He has shown in the past that he can shoot the ball. And there's no reason that he should be missing a wide open 3 by 3 feet.
He has completely lost his confidence. There's no doubt about that. And I feel bad for him because he's a great kid. He's talented. You certainly want him to be successful. You'd love to see him be successful for Indiana. But you want to see him be successful, period. Especially kid came out of West Lafayette. I mean, that's hard enough to go over to Indiana, but he's just such a good kid. He really is. And they're all good kids. And you want to see them all succeed, but it's when they're not, I don't know that it's hard. It's difficult, but they have to get it worked out. They have not played in an NCAA tournament. These games this week, to me, this is the most important week of the season for Indiana. Dylan, you've got this Minnesota game and Michigan State game. You win those 2, you're in the tournament without question to me. They're locked in, and that includes if they lose their last 3 to Rutgers, Michigan, and Purdue. I'd have to go back and look at the record to make sure they wouldn't have a losing record, but I think that they would be in if they can get those 2 wins locked in because of their net is right now is at 50. They're close. I mean, but this is the week. You're not going to beat Michigan. You're not going to beat Purdue. They're not going to beat those 2 teams. So, and the Rutgers game, that's a 50-50 game to me. I think that they definitely can beat Rutgers. Whether they do, I don't know. But these next 3 games, but this week specifically, at home against a team that cannot play on the road, even in a COVID season. I think that Minnesota, if you turned the lights out and told them that they were on the road at home, that they would lose. They're that bad. And then you got a Michigan State team that has just been bad, but charging. So it's a very, very important week for Indiana.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. This could end up being a season-defining week. They need to find a way to win these games, as we said, against teams that are at their level and lower in the conference. You just can't lose games like that. You're right. They're probably not going to beat Michigan or Purdue, especially Purdue and West Lafayette. And then and then that game against Rutgers, you'd love to have that one, and then go into the conference tournament 14-11. That would give you 9 wins in Big Ten play, which in this season should be enough. You never know, but that should be enough. So they have a chance to kind of really solidify their position here in the next couple of weeks.
Yep, we got to take a break. Kyle Neddenriep's going to join us next. We'll talk about some high school basketball as their season is continuing and getting closer to tournament action. Dylan's covers a ton of high school ball up there too, man. It's been a great high school season. I mean, I cannot believe how good the season has been with COVID. I've been saying that. I'm like, wow, it's just been a good one. I'm excited for the tournament. I'm like, yes, I can't wait. But we'll talk about it with Kyle Neddenriep when he joins us from Indy Star next here on Indy Sports Beat. Brought to you by the great folks at Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. 0% sales event. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com. We'll be back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
Welcome to
Doo-doo. How much snow did you get, Dylan? Can't hear me. Damn it.
I had a tweet kind of blow up the past few days. If you want to talk about, Archie said on the Monday radio show that Christian Lander is really the only guard that can see the floor on the team.
I mean, we'll talk about that in the 10 o'clock hour.
I thought that was a powerful statement.
That is not good. What the?
That's not good that's not your starting point guard. That's my whole point. I know that he's not ready for, like I said earlier, but I think you can mix it better than what he does. I think you can do a better job of it than what he does, and I think you could use it to get a better start than what he does. That was my whole point. I don't, but I am in what the F do I know?
Right.
That's one thing I would definitely admit to anybody. I can tell you right now. Unabomber. Boy, feels good in here now. You know what? That's the 10 o'clock hour stuff. Trevor.
And right now, Andy Moore Honda is having their first ever 0% sales event. That's right. You get 0% APR financing on a brand new Honda from Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer, Andy Moore Honda. Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, where more means more. More selection, more savings.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back. Golf Club Eagle Point Studios turned into the ski club at Eagle Point Studios right now. Andy Moore Honda brought to you by. It's a 0% sales event right now. More to your door, AndyMooreHonda.com. They've never done that. That's incredible. Runs through the end of this month, by the way. So time is clicking. Kyle has not joined us yet, so he may be busy today. But we do have more to talk about. Christian Lander, obviously, we've seen a little bit more of him. We've wanted to see more of him. We've been getting to see a little bit more of him. We'd like to see even more of him when he's able to get to that point. You know, there's a balance. We know that. I think sometimes Archie doesn't always have as much confidence in those younger guys. And I understand, but we'd certainly like to see him more. But Trevor, our producer, sent out a tweet that, what was exactly, Trevor, that you said? Archie, it was Archie's quote that Christian Lander sees the floor better than any guard he has. Is that it? Pretty much it?
Yeah, he said on the Monday radio show with Don Fisher that Christian Lander is really the only guard on the team that sees the floor.
Dylan, that's a great quality to have, but not in one that's sitting on the bench to start a game and start a half. For me.
I mean, it's not good when he's a freshman either, because there are reasons that Christian Lander was not on the floor at the beginning of the year. He was, as you said earlier, he was learning on the defensive end, I think is the way to put it gently. He was struggling with his jump shot, which he clearly lost a little bit of confidence in. And so there were reasons that he wasn't on the floor. The fact that he can see the floor is great. You'd rather him not be the only one. We talked about Rob Finney at the end of the last segment. Rob Finney I thought he could see the floor as a freshman. You know, Al Durham, I thought he could see the floor relatively well, but
We'll talk about we'll pick up on that conversation later. Kyle Neddenriep joining us now from the Indy Star. He's been out working hard as always this time of year. He's probably, no, it's not probably, without question, the busiest man working around now. Kyle joining us. Kyle, how you been, brother?
Hey, good. How are you guys doing?
Just dug out, unfrozen, and just like everybody else, just trying to stay warm and bubbled up, man. This is hard times for you because getting around Indianapolis is critical to what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm doing fine. I got my kids to get out and shovel the snow the last day or so I'm not even worried about it. They're of age where they can shovel me out. So
that's great.
We even went sledding day yesterday, so it was a good time.
Absolutely. I saw 465 is finally clear. I was watching, saw this morning they were still having some difficult problems, but the games, there shouldn't be a problem for games coming up, but games that have been had, how about, I don't know that we've talked since that 33-point outburst by CJ Gunn, 9 3-pointers at Lawrence North, sets a record at Lawrence North, which produced a lot of shooters there. Todd Leary and a lot of other guys have come out of that school. So to set that record, that was pretty big.
Yeah, pretty impressive. And I've kind of been waiting for that type of performance from CJ, to do it consistently. I think, I wrote about it, I know, and I think talked about it with you is, he'll go for stretches where he'll hit, 3 or 4, or he'll have a 10-point quarter or a 14-point half or something like that. But then the next half, he's not, as consistent, and I think that's kind of, what I've been waiting for to see with CJ, because you can see it. You can see it for stretches at a time where, he'll take over a game and he'll be the guy. And, and part of it too is that he's on a team with really good players with Shamar Avance and DJ Hughes. And, they have other weapons where he doesn't, necessarily, they don't go to him all the time. But to see him break out like that, I'm not surprised. 9 3-pointers, you never count on that. But I was kind of waiting for him to have one of those type of, 30-plus point games and really put something together like that. And it was good to see he did that. He's definitely capable of doing that consistently. Maybe not 9 threes a game, but hitting 4 or 5 and doing what he does, getting to the basket, getting in transition, and then what he does defensively too, I think is underrated. He can guard pretty much any position on the floor. And, that's pretty rare, other than maybe a 6'9" or 6'10" center. But other than that, he can guard about anybody out there. And, that makes him a pretty versatile weapon, not only, offensively, but defensively what he can do. So, really good game for him. And, I think Lawrence North back kind of trending in the right direction now, going into the last week of the regular season. And, what will be a absolutely crazy sectional 10 once again. And, believe it or not, looks even tougher than, or as tough as last year, if not tougher. It's deeper, the bottom of that sectional Tech and they're clearly better. And, North Central is only 9-9, but they're a explosive team with Leland Walker that can get you on a given night. And they played the best schedule in the state. So, can't wait to see what happens there this year. It'll be played at Tech and should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, Kyle, we had I've been seeing, obviously, CJ just committed to Indiana. And so we talk a lot of Indiana basketball here. And I saw basically the comparison for him seems to be another Indianapolis kid, Armand Franklin. What do you think about that? And what do you think about their games at similar points here in their careers?
Yeah, we actually talked to CJ about that, and it was something that came up. And I don't know if I brought it up or he brought it up first, but, I do see a comparison there. And I see I think actually CJ is probably a better shooter than Armand in high school. Armand could get hot and, could definitely shoot it from the outside, but, he was more of a kind of an all-round, and also very physical player. But it also took him a year at the freshman year to sophomore year has been a huge improvement. So, I see that type of a track for CJ as well. I don't know if he'll come in and light the world on fire as a freshman, but, the long-term projection for him, I think, is similar. And, I think with what Armand can do on both ends of the floor is similar to what CJ can do on both ends of the floor. So I think it is apt comparison. I think CJ might be a little bit longer, wingspan-wise, and, like I said, I think he's maybe more of a pure shooter type than Armand. But I covered Armand a ton in high school too, and he got a ton better from sophomore to junior to senior year, and kind of became a really dominant player at the high school level as a senior. And I think another thing, I talked to Zach Osterman about this too, our IU beat writer, is that if you do it on that level in Indianapolis area, the 4A level, as a junior and senior, I think it probably projects pretty well for you to do some good things at the next level. It's not like he's playing against chumps out there at Lawrence North. He's got the ability to project very well to the Big Ten. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. I think that is a good comparison though, Dylan. I think he is similar in a lot of ways to Armand, and I think his improvement will be similar to Armand's too.
If Todd Leary was here, he'd say that they're not playing against Hicks like Damon Bailey and Bedford and Pat Graham and Floyd Central.
I didn't say that. I'll leave that to Todd.
That's what Leary would say if he was here. I can tell you right now, because he says it all the time. Something that I've been wondering, this 2021 class is awesome, phenomenal in this state, but this COVID year has really screwed things up scholarship-wise, availability-wise. There's going to be a ton of questions with who's going to have what spots. Some teams know, but there's going to be a lot of questions with that. And how is that going to affect availability for some of these guys? A lot of them that could have normally possibly stayed in state may have to leave state to go to college. Is that going to affect? Do you see much of that?
Yeah, it will. And I've talked to some guys about that. Actually, just Friday night, I think it was Friday or Saturday, Ian Scott from Plainfield, who, he's kind of a late bloomer type, but he's about 6'7", 6'8", and he has offers from Marion and one other in-state school. I can't remember offhand right now. I'd have to look, but I think it might be Grace or one of those. But he's he's a guy who I think, in the right situation could be a Division I player. But because of, the lack of visits and, just not having the ability to be seen as much, coaches just aren't recruiting as much. And then the other thing too, is that, a lot of coaches don't know, who they're going to have coming back next year, because of the extra year of eligibility. There's just a lot of questions as far as what the rosters are going to look like next year. So, it's multiple things. And I actually talked to his dad about it a little bit too, it's been a little bit frustrating from their perspective. And it's not the first time I've heard that. I've heard that from a lot of coaches at the high school level and kids at the high school level who haven't committed yet. And I think it's also why you have seen some kids go ahead, if they have offers, they've gone ahead and jumped on them, and they've committed early, because you don't know what's going to come down the pike for you, and you don't know if those offers will necessarily be there, normally as they normally would be. So, that's changed things a lot, and it'll be a domino effect, I think, in 2022 and 2023 as well, just because, of what we're seeing now with this 2021 class. So, excuse me, it's been definitely a different, and, you always compare. I mean, to me, this is not, when you're talking about a pandemic and people dying, this isn't the number one thing, but when you're talking about basketball and recruiting, it is a huge thing. So, it's a weird deal. I think kids will ultimately find their level. I mean, whether it's, ends up being, transfer situations, or, I think we'll see, even at the football level too. I know, talked to some kids who committed sight unseen to their schools, and, that'll be an issue. I think that, when you haven't even been there, until you get to school, I mean, you don't even know what you're getting into necessarily. Now, the coaches from talking to them, but if you haven't set foot on campus, that's ultimately going to lead to more transfers than we're even seeing now. So, that's an issue that nothing can be done about it, but it's an issue. And I think will lead to some, people making decisions who maybe aren't ready to make those decisions. And, it won't be a good situation in some cases.
Yeah, can you imagine showing up someplace and it's like one of those last chance you places?
Yeah,
where the washer and dryer sitting outside and there's something like that. I hope that's not a problem. And another thing that I thought of too, as you mentioned, as we talked about this question came to my mind. Will D1 schools possibly start to use schools like Marion, these smaller in-state schools, as like a feeder? Hey, we don't have space for you, but I think you're going to develop. Go to Marion for a year, 2 years, whatever, and then we're going to bring you in. With that one-time transfer rule now, schools could actually start working deals like that.
Well, yeah, I don't know if it'll be a deal necessarily, but it could be
not officially a deal, but you know what I'm saying.
Right. It could be a, and I think that's probably going to happen anyway, if not schools like Marion, definitely mid-major schools like, I think in Missouri Valley, and it's already happening in conferences like that, the MAC, and kids kind of, playing their way up to a Power 5 conference. So, I think that's already in the works. Maybe that could be even more so because of the pandemic, but I think it's just going to create a really interesting landscape here. And from what I've heard, I don't think there's going to be open AAU as far as coaches coming in the spring. I think possibly could be in July where you see some of the normal recruiting, maybe not normal, but it'll be at least coaches being able to get out and watch like the EYBL and things like that. So, it's still it's gonna carry on into even once the pandemic is over and we're back to something that resembles normal. It's gonna be a domino effect into coming years too. So I don't know when it'll get back to it's going to be a few years probably until we get back to what it normally looks like as far as scholarship availability and things like that. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on and watch how all this falls out.
Dylan, you mentioned you guys got a big one up there. Fort Wayne, Homestead, #1. Carol, big game coming up, man.
Yeah, Homestead is undefeated. The top team in the state here. Luke Goody going to Illinois. Fletcher Lawyer going to Purdue. They're playing Carroll on Friday for what is de facto the SAC championship. So, yeah, it is one of the biggest games in Indiana this week. It's nice to have a little bit of shine on Fort Wayne.
Well, at least you can cover that way. Kyle does not have to drive up to Fort Wayne.
I'll be at Carmel and Warren Central play Friday night down here, and definitely we'll be keeping an eye on that Homestead game, though. That's they've had a great year. I know Carroll will be ready for them, but that should be a lot of fun. And see if Homestead, if they can get through the regular season undefeated, that would be quite an accomplishment, with the schedule they've played this season.
How's Carmel done what they've done? I know they've got you got O'Leary on there, so you got great shooters and not just him. There's other ones, but they're not a team that you would normally see that I would have picked to beat Lawrence North, or, that's just they have a style that really works for them, but it's difficult to play against. But I wouldn't think that they could do what they've done sometimes.
Well, and the fact they did that without Brian Waddell even playing in that game, because he was out with a sprained ankle and has been out the last 4 or 5 games. So, that was even more impressive. What they do defensively is really, Lawrence North had no easy looks. They had nothing going offensively, and that was a big credit to Carmel. The defense that they play under Ryan Osborne it's almost taken it up to another level from you talk about Marion. Scott Heddy, the coach there, he kind of got that going at Carmel, the way they play defense, and they play sort of an all-for-one style on offense, where it's no one guy dominating the ball, or it's very much a team-oriented team at Carmel, and they do have good size. They're a good size team. When they bring Waddell back, they have Pete Suter, who's about 6'5", 6'4" or 5 probably, who plays multiple positions for them. And that dude, he just plays so hard. He's just such a hard worker and a winner. And then they have a sophomore named Sam Orme, who, he's able to knock down 3-pointers. He's about 6'7" or 6'8". He'll be a name to know in coming years. And then Charlie Williams is 6'10" inside. So these guys aren't big, bulky guys, but the fact that they can throw out, 6'6", 6'8", 6'10", Suter's probably 6'4", so they have really good size. And, they just are a team that knows how to win. And that's sometimes I think overstated, in our, the way we talk about teams, but I think that's definitely true for Carmel, that they just kind of believe in their system, and they they believe anytime they take the floor, they're going to beat you. And they've done it all, but once this year, lost to Cathedral. I'm sorry, twice now. They lost 2 1-point games to Cathedral and Fishers. So, they're right there. I think they're one of the top contenders to win the state title this year. And we could see Homestead and Carmel potentially play each other in the regional. And I think that'd be a fantastic game. And hopefully Brian Waddell's back and healthy pretty quickly here for Carmel, so they're at full strength.
Well, there's tons of games I'd like to say get out and watch this weekend, but you can't. But you can follow your high school teams, hopefully, whether you're in Evansville, wherever you are around the state, to do that. Kyle, I cannot thank you enough, brother. Stay safe out there and warm.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, man. The great Kyle Neddenriep joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat from the Indy Star, covering all of Indiana high school sports. Dylan Sinn does the same, but he's sitting in with me as well today. Well, let's see. We're got to hit a break coming up. We got plenty more to talk about, and then we'll get to it. From the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. 0% sales event going on right now. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com. We're back right after this.
Hey, we all want more, and no one gives you more for less.
Boom.
We can something you mentioned there with the feeders. We can talk about. We can use that as a springboard to talk because Liam Robbins from Minnesota, he went to Drake first, and now because he didn't have any offers coming out of high school.
Yeah, so because it's not just the transfers. That occurred to me while we were talking, and I'm like, oh man, I can just see that now. I was like, oh wow, hey, you start developing a relationship with a couple of schools, and then you suggest you guys go now. Now, there's going to be times where they do that and they end up going someplace else probably because they get too good and they start getting a lot of offers. But I can see that happening. And that's going to be an offshoot. And that's going to be one of the unintended consequences of this, I think.
Yeah. Do you know when they're doing the one-time transfer rule? Have they put that together? I know they voted not to do it like a week ago, but they still think it's going to happen.
I don't,
eventually.
But since everybody gets the COVID, that has, because see, those two things together are mad. That's magic.
It is going to
everybody.
be wild. Yes.
That's
Kyle
see, does that change Parker Stewart's situation?
That's a good question. I genuinely have no idea. I think he's a grad transfer. So he's immediately eligible anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay, because that might have affected the eligibility, even though the COVID. If you have to sit out, if they don't change that rule, and you actually have to sit out. But he's a grad transfer, so he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right. There was speculation that they could actually use him this year. I don't know whether he's eligible to play this year.
He is, and that's what the question has been. Why is he not? That's another question. What's the real reason Parker Stewart is not playing? I'm not this out of shape crap. Not listening to that. I'm not hearing that.
Well, I mean,
you can stand out there and shoot the ball if you have to. Now under Archie, I could see that where Archie would not consider him. And seriously, in shape, say he couldn't keep up defensively. Maybe he can't. Maybe he's that out of shape. He can't keep up defensively. But again, at what point do you balance what you lose to what you gain? Because sometimes what you gain is much more than what you've lost.
You do wonder whether he's still he's still not mentally there after the death of his father. You wonder if that's an
encounter with elephants and giraffes. Lodging that is out of the world.
But I would think that basketball would be the best thing for you to get your mind off of it because, man, that's a drain.
It is. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, everyone deals with that stuff differently, and it's just tough. So,
in Clarksville, pizza, burgers, beer.
Welcome back. A little warmer now with that. Golf Club Eagle Point Studios brought to you by Andy Moore Honda. Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer's got a 0% sales event going on right now. You can get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com. And I'm sure if you needed all-wheel drive vehicle, they got plenty of those. I brought up something in that last segment that occurred to me while we were talking about the previous subject about the possible feeder systems, these smaller in-state schools, JUCOs, whatever, that a kid could go to who's not quite there, and a D1 school doesn't want him just yet. Hey, you go here for a year, maybe two, and you get bigger, whatever, and then we're going to bring you in. And then you've got 2 more years left, and you can transfer if they change the rule, and boom, you got instant eligibility. Or maybe it's just 1 year, and they get that year, that development, that extra. It's like going to a prep school, like everybody used to go to prep schools. And what's going to happen with prep schools? Are they still going to hang around? But Dylan, I see that happening, man. Wow, that occurred to me. I'm like, oh man, that's because, especially in Indiana just produces, we all know, the talent is coming out of our ears here. That's why they're going everywhere. They've got to go play for Michigan and Michigan State and Kentucky and Louisville and Illinois. There's Purdue, Indiana, Notre Dame. It's just Ohio State, Illinois, Northwestern, all those Big Ten schools that I just said within a couple of hours of here. That's what I just name off, 10, 11, 12 programs. I mean, my God. So, yeah, and you can't get them all. And so, man, you hate losing, but there's a great possibility of an unintended consequence.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting if you have you see Last Chance U, where you have these kids go to a junior college and they sit there all the time like, okay, what do I need to do to get an offer from a Division I school? And it'd be interesting to see how that dynamic might flip if they went into some of those schools knowing, hey, I play well here, I have an offer on the table, nudge, nudge, from so and so. You know what I mean? I think you're spot on that if you have the one-time transfer rule, you're going to start having things like that where coaches develop relationships with a Marion or an Indiana Wesleyan or something like that, where you can kind of say, stash them here while you don't have the scholarships, and for Marion and Indiana Wesleyan, that would be a great recruiting tool, is saying, hey, we have this relationship. If you show out, you are going to at least get a look from a Division I team. So it's something that could be beneficial for both sides.
Actually, now you say that, yeah, that opens that up for everybody, for all these other schools to develop these relationships. This could be a boon for the small schools. This could be great for them, the recruiting tool, like you just mentioned. Especially those schools in this state right here, because look at all those, I just named them, all the relationships you could establish right there. Wow, what a pipeline. They call Indiana the crossroads. It is the crossroads of college basketball as well. I mean, start here and just start drawing lines to within major programs within 6 hours or less. It's a lot. And so, but we have Indiana produces the talent to feed those. That's the thing. And from a per capita, that's crazy, but they do year in, year out. And this is one of those years where it's even phenomenally better than most.
Yeah. I mean, we've been talking about this 2021 class in Indiana for so long now, and they haven't really disappointed. You know, they've lived up to the expectations of how good we thought they were all going to be, and it's been fun to watch. That's why we've been able to have this high school basketball season has been as terrific as it has been, even with COVID, because there is just so much talent in the state this year, and it has been extremely exciting. And it's wild that we lost maybe the best player in this state in Christian Lander, because he went to college a year early. So that's something that we've been able to have a high school basketball season because the players are there.
I didn't mention Northwestern in Illinois last night. Northwestern played Illinois tough, but Illinois 73-66 that game. Illinois in the Big Ten currently with 3 teams in the top 5. Never happened before. They had 3 in the top 6 once, and that was in 1987. That's a good year for the Big Ten. Indiana wins a national championship that year. Purdue, Indiana, and it was Iowa was number 6. Purdue was actually number 3 that year. But Indiana was ranked number 4 at the time when they had those 3 teams. But they've never had 3 in the top 5. Can they win a national championship? Yeah, they can. But they need a little help. Baylor and Gonzaga are wicked good. If Baylor comes back like Michigan came back from their COVID break, things are going to be exciting. This could be a really, really exciting this could be an exciting Final Four because think about this. We don't have the Dukes and the Kansases and the Kentuckys. This is going to be an exciting, new, different Final Four. Michigan's up there, Ohio State, Illinois, Iowa from the Big Ten. The Big 12 is extraordinarily strong. The SEC currently has 6 teams in projected to go right now. They've gotten better. But I think this could be an incredibly fun tournament in this weird year.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. And it's an interesting dynamic because a lot of years there's one team that we all know is extremely good and everyone's trying to knock them off, right? Like a couple of years ago with Duke it was Zion Williamson. It was them, right? Or a couple of years ago, Kentucky, when they had Karl Anthony Towns and they got beaten by Wisconsin, Frank Kaminsky. Everyone's trying to take that one team down. This year, there are 2 or 3 teams, depending on how you feel about Michigan, that are right there at the top, right? And so you have 3 different teams that could be the favorite on any given night. And so it's going to be fun to watch those teams kind of maneuver their way through the tournament and see if they can all make it to the Final Four and face each other, because that would be incredibly fun. Quite frankly, I think those 3 are kind of ahead of the class a little bit. I don't know if Ohio State is quite on that level. And Illinois has struggled against Nebraska and Northwestern here in the last week. There are some flaws with that Illinois team that are exploitable in March. So we'll see with them. But yeah, Michigan, I think, is the real deal. That win, Dan Dockich said it on the during the Purdue game last night that he thought that Michigan win against Wisconsin was maybe the most impressive win in college basketball this year, just because of the team they were playing, not having played for 3 weeks, and the way they started that game where they were clearly rusty, to come out and win by 20 in the second half. That Michigan can play. They can flat out play. Juwan Howard can flat out coach. That is that was not Northwestern. They did that too. That was not Michigan State. They did that too. That was not even Indiana. They did that too, or Nebraska for that matter. That was a team that kicks most teams' butt, especially at home, that does not make mistakes, that does not get beat like that. I mean, they may lose a game, but they don't get hammered. Wow. Yeah. They got hammered after having a big lead. I mean, I don't know of a win more impressive than that. I'll be honest with you, because that's all I was thinking about is, oh man, how bad are they going to be when they come back? Because we've seen it all year, every team. It's a struggle. They struggled for 20 minutes. It was it. It was like, all right, let's go. Boom. I'm like, okay. They weren't practicing when they were off for those 2 weeks. It was a hiatus. No practice. That's scary. Yeah, woohoo. I think the Big Ten's best chance to win a national championship in a long time, maybe this year. They're going to have to get past some really, really good teams. I think Baylor is the best team in the country. And I think and I've said it over and over, playing in the Big 12 is going to sharpen them. Playing in the Big 10 is going to sharpen Michigan. That's going to be good. I think that Gonzaga is going to be hurt. They're very talented, but they don't play tough games. They don't play close games. They're not challenged. They don't play games that are going down to the last minute like the Big 12 has over and over. They don't play physical like the Michigan has to play against in the Big 10. I think that's going to hurt them in the tournament, but we'll see. I think it's going to be phenomenal though. Yeah, no, I think we're in for a very good tournament this year. That there are teams that are combinations of Michigan, Baylor, and Gonzaga. They all have this combination of really talented freshmen and a lot of veteran guys that can also play and are extremely talented as well. So that's kind of the combination that's becoming. It's not all teams that are all one and dones are not doing as well as they used to. It's these teams that have a few guys who are talented and might go to the NBA immediately, along with some guys that have stuck around for 3 or 4 years. And that's what Michigan and Baylor and Gonzaga and teams like Villanova, they have that. And it's going to be extremely interesting to see down the stretch here. Tommy Crean got a win last night over a reeling Missouri. Man, they are just falling off the table. I mean, they're doing the Nestea plunge into the pool, man. They're number 20, but every time I look up, Missouri's getting beat by somebody here at the end of the season. 13-6. They're even in the SEC now at 6-6. So just a couple games below Georgia. Georgia has a winning record actually at 13-8. That's nuts.
They're 2 games under 500 in the SEC, but big win for them last night. And then Arkansas. Look at Arkansas, number 24, with Justin Smith. They beat Florida last night, 75-64. Arkansas, they're in the tournament, man. They're a tournament team. So Justin Smith definitely made the right decision for him. He is going to be playing in the NCAA tournament for certain. If he'd have stayed here, he might not be.
I was just thinking last night, I saw Justin Smith. He's had 2 straight really good games right now. He scored 19 earlier this week. He had 15 last night. I was thinking about all the players in the last decade from Indiana that have transferred and gone on to play in NCAA tournaments with different teams. Justin Smith, I mean, Remy Abel's another one. Maurice Creek, didn't he go on and play somewhere? They've had some guys.
No, George Washington.
George Washington, that's what it was. Yeah. And they've just had some guys that have left and gone on to great things, or at least had team success that Indiana has not had. And it's just interesting to think about all those guys.
Well, if you come to Indiana, you're a good player, so you know that. So there's a great place to start. So you usually have a good landing spot if you're leaving a program like in Indiana. We got more to talk about. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat here on this cold and snowy Wednesday. The Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by the fine folks at Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. They have a 0% sales event going on right now. Get 0% APR financing. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com. We're back with more right after this.
Hey, we all want more, and no one gives you more.
Woo! This is fun. I can go on all day. It's just fun when there's stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
And actually, we're just making stuff up. The trick, my friend, wait till May and June. That's when we see. That's when you see you shine in May and June and July. Those 3 months right there are the hard 3 months because nothing is really going on. And that's when you really talk.
I mean, we kind of had that earlier this year when there was football, I suppose. But
yeah, no, we do. It's actually not that. It's actually, I enjoy it more because it's conversational. I don't have to. Like now, there's so much stuff. You got to hit this. You got to hit this. You got to hit this. You need to hit this. Need to hit this. That you get there and you're like, okay, we can just be more topical and conversational. And I like. It's kind of a break. It's nice. It's different to not have to do all that stuff. So actually, it's fun. It's not difficult really.
Yeah. Emmett Holt is another one. I just looked it up. Providence. They have so many of those guys.
What about Devin Davis? Did they go at the Georgia school that he went to with the guy? Didn't the guy from the IUPI go there? The coach from IUPUI left and went to Georgia Southern, I'm thinking, which is where Kevin Ware ended up, I think, from Louisville. The guy that broke his leg.
Yeah, but I mean, Devin Davis went to Houston, and then they made the Sweet 16 when they lost to Michigan.
Well, there's an article for you.
Yeah, reach out to all those guys and say, hey, what was it like leaving Indiana and then going to play in the tournament? Yeah, Devin Davis
success.
Devin Davis had averaged 11 points and 6 rebounds for a team that was a miracle shot away from reaching the Elite Eight.
If you go through the Tom Crean era alone, I'm sure you're going to find a healthy dose of those names because he had. I mean, I don't know how many people that transferred during his tenure, but it was a lot.
Yeah.
Not all of them were NCAA players, unfortunately.
Yeah. Remember Peter Jerkin?
Yes. What was the kid from up the region? They made the cried about it when Archie didn't retain him.
Grant Galen?
Yeah. When Archie didn't keep. How bad are you when Archie doesn't keep you?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I read the stories.
Lodging that is out of this world, world-class golfing, and a premier resort experience that is waiting for you on your next visit to French Lick, West Baden.
Could have had Sasha Stefanovic.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Then she lit up a candle and she showed me the way.
Welcome back to the sunny slopes of the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by the great folks at Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. 0% sales event, more to your door with andymoorehonda.com. Games tonight that are still on. Arizona State, USC. USC's having a season, man, rising up. They're number 17 out in the Pac-12. They're 11-2 in that league, 17-3 overall. They're looking – see, they're not getting – the West Coast, not a lot of respect out there. They're 17-3 and they're 17th. So the Pac-12's not as strong as most other leagues. Valpo playing Loyola Chicago. Kansas is at Kansas State. Kansas State is a punching bag, man. They must just be terrible. They are the Nebraska of the Kansas State and Nebraska should just start their own deal, man, so they can get some wins or something, because they're 5-7. They're 1-12 in the Big 12. Whew. South Carolina is at Tennessee. Tennessee's been reeling a little bit. Number 19, the Vols, man, they've been a little rough on them lately. South Carolina travels there. They're 14. Tennessee is 14-6, 7-6 in the SEC. That's not good for a ranked team. I mean, wow, they're ranked 19th. I'm like, wow. Because the SEC, like, just not that strong, like I just mentioned, and so that's a little surprising to see those numbers.
Yeah,
Houston,
absolutely. Kelvin Sampson down there in Houston.
There's talk about more remnants there. They're 17-2, so 11-2 in their conference. No doubt they're going to the tournament. He's got Houston rolling around now that he's found a different path of doing things, different way of doing things. Mike Ham hit us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline, says Missouri is channeling their inner Iowa. Iowa has given every team the blueprint to beat them. Indiana, my opinion, Indiana beat them because Indiana's offensive inabilities run the shot clock down at virtually every possession. And Iowa is a team that scores 88, 90, 92 points a game that they run. They're going. They got to go. When you take them out of that flow, Indiana was unintentionally successfully able to stem that flow, and that just throws them for a loop. Because what else can you say for a team that's that talented? Yeah, that just blows my mind. But to me, that's the blueprint for beating Iowa. You just got to slow it down. You cannot let them get out and run, because that's exactly what they want to do.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. And then the other part is to throw some athletes at Luka Garza. It doesn't matter who it is. Just throw as many athletes at him as possible. Indiana did that with Jordan Geronimo. Jordan Geronimo defended Luka Garza better than almost anyone else has this entire season. And he's a freshman that really still is trying to figure it out on defense. And he was out there defending National Player of the Year from last year. So, yeah, Indiana provided the blueprint. I think they also match up relatively well with Iowa, just kind of player for player. But yeah, Iowa, I mean, people have kind of figured them out a little bit, and they need to readjust. And historically, they just have not been great. The Iowa teams have not been great at readjusting when teams figure them out later in the season.
Let's see. What else we got going on in the world of sports this weekend? Daytona was last week, the Daytona 500, and a great ending to that. It was 6 hours delayed, but incredible, fiery late-night ending. Chase Briscoe from Mitchell down the road, his first NASCAR Cup Series start, finished top 20. They're back at Daytona this week with a road course race, I believe. Do you follow racing much?
I don't really, but I remember we had Chase Briscoe on the show here over the summer. So that was
you were on. That was not too long ago. Yeah, you were on that day. Couldn't be. Yeah, we'll get him back on here too. But they're back at Daytona this week on the road course. So I enjoy watching them, especially now. There's not much to do. There's a lot of things you got to find to do. But looking forward to that. But looking forward to the basketball this weekend and the games that are coming up. Big 12, man. Tomorrow, Texas and Oklahoma. That's Texas Tech and TCU. Those are both going to be good games. TCU has been a little bit of a thorn for some of those teams. They're 11-8 in the Big 12. You can be 11-8 in that conference. You're getting something done because those teams are in a fist fight every night, and it's been fun to watch. Alabama is playing tomorrow night again. Number 8, Alabama. How about them? They just set a points scoring record for Alabama. Well, they score like 115 against somebody.
It's something like that. Yeah, they are clicking on all cylinders right now, and I mean the SEC is deep. They are a deep team. Alabama, of course, they did it against Tom Crean. Surprise, surprise. They did it against Georgia. They beat Georgia 115-82 the other day. That
did not surprise. Yeah, I forgot about it. I was like, yeah, when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, it doesn't surprise me. There's no defense. They're just running. Everybody's just running up and down the court. But the thing about Nate Oates, though, is he said his next deal is he want to make sure that the defense is shored up because we're just going to make sure. So you got a coach talking about defense that's scoring 115 points. Whew, that's a scary team right there, too. That team gets on a run, gets on a roll. Man, those are the type of teams that scare you in the tournament. They just get on one of those rolls and they come out of nowhere because we're talking about Baylor and Gonzaga and Michigan and those teams. We're not talking about Alabama. They're in the SEC. Who cares about Alabama? Better watch out for a team like that in the tournament.
Yeah. And Kentucky not being very good this year has kind of created a power vacuum in the SEC where there's a lot of teams that have a shot to win that conference. Alabama, we talked about Arkansas, we talked about Missouri, even though they've fallen off a little bit lately. So there are some really good teams in that conference, more than usual, I'd say. And I think it goes back to Kentucky struggling a little bit and just giving everyone a chance to kind of rise up collectively. I think that's helped as well to kind of make the league a better product overall.
Man, there's a lot of good games tomorrow night, and Houston's back at it again, man. They got another one as they're taking on Wichita State. But in the Big Ten, number 11 Iowa is at number 21 Wisconsin. There's a big game that has implications. Let's see, 15-7 now is what Wisconsin is. They're 9-6 in the Big Ten. Saying 9-5 for Iowa, 15-6 overall. That's going to be a nice contest between those two. They match up. Iowa and Wisconsin is the big craziest stat of the year. The Wisconsin's average age is older than the Chicago Bulls. That just still blows me away. That's one of the funniest stats I've ever heard in all of sports.
The other stat that is extremely interesting that I heard yesterday was against Michigan. Wisconsin's two big men, Micah Potter and Nate Reavers, neither of them had a single rebound against Michigan. So that is not the way to win a game in the Big Ten, is to have your big men not have any rebounds, and they will be challenged against Luka Garza. So they're going to need to play much better, but they are another team like Indiana where they can slow the pace down and maybe take Iowa out of that offensive rhythm just a little bit.
Ohio State's back in action tomorrow night. Number 4 Ohio State, that is. They travel to Penn State, so that should be an easy one for them. Penn State's they've been battling teams lately. Michigan also. Here's a big game. Rutgers travels to Michigan. It should be interesting to see Rutgers getting beat up by Michigan before they heading to Indiana here soon. But it'd be interesting to see how Michigan plays at home now after they come on that run. They could just getting on that could have been the best thing that happened to Michigan. Who knows? Maybe that break, that rest, and because coming back like that. All right, so we're like, well, that didn't hurt them at all. So they had 2 weeks of rest. Their body rested. Well, if it didn't hurt their basketball and they got 2 weeks of rest, man, that could be a great recipe for them.
Yeah, and the question is, we're going to end up talking about some of the same issues that the Big Ten had during the football season. But the question is, does the Big Ten have to make up some games? Because if they do, they're going to force Michigan to play a ton of games here in a very, very short span against some pretty good teams. And obviously, I think it would probably behoove the Big Ten to maybe just cancel some of those games. And
trust me,
you don't want your best team, the team that has the best chance to win a national championship, to be absolutely exhausted by the time the Big Ten tournament starts. That just does not seem like a recipe for success for your conference.
I had not thought of that. That's a good point. And yeah, the Big Ten is not going to screw themselves. We saw that during football season. They are going to make sure that they're going to go ahead and make Ohio State the Big Ten. Michigan the Big Ten champion. But they should. Actually, I agree. This is one that I actually agree. Michigan is, I think they're going to win the Big Ten tournament, but we'll see about that. But I think your tournament this year is your champion. It's a weird deal, but I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't see. But Nebraska is going to have to play back-to-back games against somebody. It doesn't matter, but I don't think that game has much consequence. Those two games. We'll see how they're going to do it because Indiana is involved in two of those game makeups with Michigan State and Michigan, and we'll see how that turns out. Hopefully, I don't know. I can't see them making both of them up. Maybe one of them, but
right.
How do you make it fair? Because let me tell you, playing Michigan State twice is a hell of a lot different than playing Michigan twice.
Yes, exactly, and that's the thing is at some point, if you're not playing all the games, it's going to be fundamentally unfair, and that's the problem for the Big Ten is do you really chase all the fairness, or do you say we want to give Michigan a chance to have fresh legs? We don't want to penalize them for having COVID in the middle of the season.
Man, it's another fun day as always. Go out and sled around, do what you want to do, play in the snow, stay safe though, stay warm and don't stress yourself. There's not a lot out there. So if you don't have to be out, don't be out because a lot of the roads are still kind of bad out in the county and whatnot. So just don't be out there. But we appreciate everybody. Cannot thank you enough. Can't thank Dylan enough as always. Dylan, thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Absolutely, Jim. Always glad to do it. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure always, and big thanks to Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star as well. Tomorrow we'll be back, of course. Dustin Schutte, Chris Denari from the Pacers, Matt Taylor from the Colts. Plenty to talk about there as well. The Pacers get back on a winning ways for them, so good for them. But we'll be back tomorrow to do it all again. Until then, I can't thank you enough. Go out and do something nice for somebody. Please wear your mask. And until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. Really, after the game with Todd Leary tonight, after the game, almost forgot about that. But until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I'll see you on the radio.
Quicksand's got no sense.